If you go into that situation, particularly in the military, and you are hesitant or you're hemming and hawing, and you're kind of like, well, I really shouldn't be here, or you're not feeling confident yet, you just got to get it there and get in there and own it. It is yours. You were put in that position for a reason. You are that person who's going to make the call, make the decisions, and you got to come out of the gate.
Hey, welcome to the Leadership Loading Podcast. I'm Jason McClaren, and welcome to my guest, Chez.
Yeah, I'm Ches.
Chez has a lot of experience on travel writing, so we'll get talking about that here in a little bit. But we'll start with his background. So, Chez, what led you to join the military?
I was an Army-based kid. Never wanted to do in Vietnam. He had never really shared those stories, but he was clearly trying to dissuade me from going. And eventually, I decided not to follow that path. But years later, I just kept getting the bug and would talk to recruiters, and ultimately got to a point where I decided I wasn't going to join the military. Then had a chance encounter with a young captain in the 82nd Airborne online, and he reminded me that it wasn't too late for me to join. I was 34 at the time, and cutoff at the time was 35. And yeah, long story short, I signed up. So I went to basic training at age 34, and I was slightly older than one of my drill sergeants by about 2 months, if I remember right. So that was interesting.
That's crazy. I think I was trying to be a training instructor in the Air Force, and I believe I was probably 25, 26 about that time I was going through the process. So yeah, that would have been crazy having older recruits. So yeah. And what did you do in the military?
Yeah. Went as a 19 kilo, so armor. And while we're in basic, so I actually joined to be an officer, joined to lead troops, and we got called up while I was in basic. I did the right thing, which was to go be enlisted first to learn, and then I was going to go to Officer Candidate School, but we got called up while I was in basic, and I was a guard unit. And so yeah, once I got out of basic and AIT, we eventually deployed to Iraq in 2005-ish as infantry.
Yeah, so you would have 2005. I think I deployed to Kuwait 2005. I think late 2005. Yeah, because I came back in January '06. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I was probably right behind you. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So how many years did you serve total?
I just did the six.
Okay.
I finally completed Officer Candidate School, was ready to get my commission, and I realized that the pressure on my spouse, my wife, was pretty intense. And I told her, if we're going to do this, and of course I was all to sign up again, but I said if we're going to do this, we just got to know I'm going to be deployed again. And it eventually became very, very clear that that was going to be exceptionally hard for her to manage. So at that point, unfortunately, I got out.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. Yeah, it's probably one reason I didn't go back in or re-enlist. But so what your writing? Did you get involved in that in the military? Is that something you just picked up after you got out?
I've actually always been interested in writing, always been a storyteller. And as we were getting ready to deploy, we were living in Idaho at the time, and I reached out to the Idaho Statesman and asked if they'd like to have me write a column while we were deployed. They got back to me within about 3 days and said, heck yeah, that'd be great. We were just talking about trying to find someone who could write. And then I had to push it up through the chain in the Idaho Guard, and that took quite a bit longer, as you might figure. But they eventually approved it. And so I was writing monthly columns while in Iraq. And eventually those started getting picked up by different National Guard and other military publications as well. So they really started to reach a pretty good size audience. So by the time I came home, I had a pretty good array of clips that I could show people to become a freelance writer. And I also had the luck of having our first child, my daughter Lillian. She was born the night we flew in out of Kuwait into Iraq. So that was kind of a unique story. And so I pitched that to a bunch of family magazines, and eventually Good Housekeeping bought that one. So that was my first kind of paid writing gig.
Yeah, you see, well, I see a lot military people. Maybe they do a little bit of what their hobby is in the military, and they get out and do that as kind of a career or either their side gig. I know there's a
True.
YouTuber named Sam Erickson, I think's his name. He just likes airplanes, so he does that full time. Touring airplanes and helicopters and different military pieces of equipment.
Oh, cool.
And I kind of did the same thing. I was a firefighter in the Air Force. I got out and I did fire safety consulting, on the side. But yeah,
Mm.
so you can definitely use those skills or your side hobby and do that when you get out.
Yeah.
So you run the what is it called? The Travel Associate Writers Association?
So I basically have three hats.
Okay.
One, I'm a freelance outdoor and travel writer. The day job is running the Outdoor Writers Association of America. So I'm the executive director of that association. But then, as a volunteer, I'm also president of the Society of American Travel Writers. And I think there's a lot of military personnel out there who are moving around, getting to explore different places, as long as they're pretty well positioned to become a travel writer themselves.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us wear different hats. I know I'm the same way. Like I probably wear three or four hats too. And so I think that's something with military. We just can't sit still. Like you said, we don't like not a lot of us like to go into desk jobs. And so I just have to be doing something. So it's like I've got those three hats to pick from. And when if I'm
Mm-hmm.
done my day job, I can do my side gig, and then if I'm done with that, I can do my volunteer gig, and then of course I have my wife and my kid also, and so there's always that stuff to do. So, what do you, I
Well,
guess, what do you think makes us do that? Is it just us trying to be, scratch that itch or keep that creative mindset going?
hard work. They're obviously not afraid of discipline. They're ready and willing to GSD, get stuff done. And I think the military just further hones that. It puts people through challenging situations in terms of, like, yeah, maybe your dog tired, but hey man, something came up and there's another mission to run and you got to go regardless. And so you find other reserves, you find other ways to push yourself, to manage yourself, juggling all that stuff. So once you get out into the civilian world, I think it's still just kind of ingrained into that kind of person to go out and still just get stuff done.
So when you guys are writing stuff for y'all's your associations, like is it things that you guys have done, or is things you guys research and then y'all put them into the articles, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's really a lot of the media that we have that are members of either association. They often have a niche. So with outdoor writers, I've got some of our members. They focus strictly on upland bird hunting or maybe fly fishing only. I'm more of a generalist. I cover things like hiking, backpacking, paddling, a variety of different things. But there are definitely people who specialize. And even on the travel side, you have people who specialize in sports tourism or maybe culinary. I'd love to get into like covering more, say, like military historical tourism and things like that too. So it's always good to have kind of like a focus area and a niche. But then, yeah, generally you go out and you experience it, and then you come back and you pitch it to your outlets if you're a freelancer. So it gets a little bit challenging. You often develop relationships with the tourism boards themselves, who are happy to have you come out and experience what they have to offer, knowing that you're then going to go write about it. So it's a great way to open up your life to a lot more travel in the future.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish maybe after my daughter gets a little older, I can do some more traveling and benefit from you guys' writings. So we've kind of talked a little bit about what kind of leader is in the military and how that relates to your writing styles. What would be a tip you'd give to a new leader if you're meeting a new person and they ask you for some advice?
You really got to take ownership. If you go into that situation, particularly in the military, and you are hesitant or you're hemming and hawing, and you're kind of like, well, I really shouldn't be here, or you're not feeling confident yet, you just got to get in there and own it. It is yours. You were put in that position for a reason. You are that person who's going to make the call, make the decisions, and you got to come out of the gate with that kind of confidence and with that kind of strength. Otherwise, unfortunately, particularly in the military, you are going to get chewed up.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic there and a great tip for the new leaders there. And Ches, how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to hear more about what you're doing over there or just contact you?
Yeah, I've got a website. It's just chezconnects.com. So CHEZ connects.com. And I've got links to my stories up there and things like that. And yeah, there's a way to contact me right via the website.
Well, I see you have a Alaska poster behind you. I'm originally from Alaska, so that's my next travel
Oh,
vacation. I think
man.
my wife and daughter and my father-in-law have not been there, so I think that's going to be our next engagement is trying to get all four of us or five of us up there. But I got to plan that out.
Yeah, that is one of the great things about travel. I mean, I've had the opportunity to go to what 36 or so countries now, But man, our own country is big and beautiful and diverse, and you've got Alaska, which is massive and beautiful. Then you contrast it to Maine or Key West or like New Mexico. I mean, there's so many fabulous places in our own country too that yeah, you can travel within the United States and see some amazing things. In addition to getting out into the world and seeing some of those things too.
Yeah, I've seen like YouTube shorts and things where it's like, if you want to experience this in Italy or whatever, you can go to this place in the United States that's similar. You can go to, if you're trying to experience something else across the globe and you don't want you to leave the United States, there's something similar in the United States. So.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Well, Ches, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. This episode of the Leadership Loading Podcast was brought to you by Go Heroes Inc., goheroes.org. If you'd like to be a sponsor, go ahead and check out our website or email us, and we'll get you all the information you need.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership inspires.